At my late father's memorial, my 4-year-old screamed, "Mom, stay in the car." Grandpa says run. This is the child who sometimes sees things. I flirted. The sound that erupted behind us made my entire body shake. "Mom, don't get out of the car." Grandpa said to run as soon as we arrived at my parents' house for my father's 1-year memorial. My 4-year-old daughter, Lily, suddenly shouted her word. Struck something in me, and I slammed my foot on the accelerator, pulling away fast. She occasionally says things that seem to come from somewhere beyond reason. This time was no exception. But why would she say that? Seconds later, I saw something that made my blood run cold. No, this can't be. A deafening blast echoed behind us. The roof of the house blew apart. In the rearview mirror, I saw flames engulfing my childhood home. Lily and I lived alone in the city. Shortly after getting married, I lost my husband in a car accident. In a pit of despair, it was Lily still growing inside me who gave me a reason to live. I worked as a nurse and raised her with everything I had. Now she's 4 years old, bright, kind, and my greatest treasure. But since she was 2, I noticed something unusual in her. She'd sometimes laugh and chatter at empty corners of the room, fascinated by something no one else could see. Then, when she had just turned 3, she stroked her chin thoughtfully and whispered, "Daddy is always nearby. He says Olivia's dimples are the cutest." Just like this, I was speechless. She had described my late husband's habits and phrases perfectly, details she couldn't possibly have known. I realized she could sense things unseen, and I knew deep down that he was still watching over us. There was another person who'd always supported Lily and me, my father. He lived out in the countryside and spent his days growing organic vegetables. Every season, he would send us boxes filled with fresh produce and fruit. Then his health suddenly declined. That's when my brother Greg and his wife Melissa said they would take over his care and moved into our family home. I had always felt uncomfortable around them and kept my distance. Greg was prideful to a fault and hated apologizing to anyone. If he felt someone was beneath him, he made sure they knew it, especially me. He would say things like, "A nurse is just a doctor's assistant," or "You're hopeless and ugly. Hard to believe you're my sister." He said that sort of thing countless times while we were growing up. Melissa, his wife, was cunning and mean. Even when we first met, she looked me up and down like she was measuring my worth. Her words still echo in my memory. Wow, such a plain face makeup wouldn't help either. From then on, every time I visited home, she'd insult me just loud enough for me to hear and laugh about it with Greg. It was only natural that I eventually stopped going. That said, I wasn't completely ungrateful. They were caring for Dad, and I respected that, but I couldn't bring myself to believe they were treating him kindly. Whenever I tried to visit, they gave me excuses. "He's not feeling well. It's not a good time." Part of me started to suspect I was being deliberately shut out. One day, Greg called. Dad collapsed. We had the doctor see him. He hung up shortly afterward. The family doctor was a longtime acquaintance of mine, so I decided to check in myself. He calmly assured me Dad would recover with rest. I felt some relief, and planned to visit soon, but before I could, Greg called again. "Dad died 5 days ago." What? My mind went blank. His condition hadn't seemed critical. What had happened? "Why didn't you tell me sooner? You live too far away. You wouldn't have made it. The funeral and cremation are already done. No need to come." His words were cold and detached. I asked if I could at least offer a prayer. Melissa took over the call. "The altar is already prepared here. Wait until we contact you. Don't come unannounced." Pain over losing Dad turned to something deeper, a feeling of being cast out by my own family. I couldn't stop wondering whether my father had truly passed peacefully. A month before his 1-year memorial, I called Greg to ask if I could help organize his belongings, but he gave me a sharp reply. I already threw everything out. His tone was flat, like my feelings didn't matter. At least, could I have the wristwatch I gave him? He loved it. Wore it every day, huh? Oh, that it was old and broken. So I tossed it. I felt a dull ache in my chest to hear that something Dad cherished had been discarded so casually left me stunned. Had it really been broken, or was that just a lie? There was no way to know. I tried to steady myself and took a deep breath. "By the way, the house and land, they're still in Dad's name, right?" Greg responded instantly, almost as if he'd been waiting before he passed. He said everything should go to me. I cared for him. So, of course, I deserve it. Did he leave a will or sign anything official? What? Well, it was verbal, but it was his wish. What's the problem? I could hear his voice waver in at that moment. Suspicion settled deep into my heart. A few days later, I received a text message from my sister-in-law. "This house is going to be our base. Moving forward, please leave us be. From now on, focus on your own life and don't get involved." The tone made it painfully clear they saw me as nothing more than an outsider. The moment I read it, a surge of anger and helplessness washed over me as if sensing my feelings. Lily tugged gently at my sleeve and spoke. "Mom, Grandpa says he wanted to see you before he passed. He's still at the house." I turned to look at her. Her expression was serious, and her eyes didn't carry even a hint of mischief or imagination. "Grandpa says he did a key behind your bookshelf. He wants you to open the drawer." At first, I thought it was just a dream, but her words were so precise that I began to believe she was channeling something unexplainable. Maybe my father really had left something behind. Determined to find out the truth, I decided to visit the house. A few days later, I had an errand near my childhood home. On my way back, I couldn't shake the feeling, so I stopped by briefly without telling my brother or his wife. When I arrived, the house was quiet. They weren't home. Instead of going to the main house, I walked toward the small annex my father had built just for me. I still had a spare key, and when I tried it, the door clicked open. Inside, everything felt familiar. The same bookshelf and chair I'd used as a student were still there. Then Lily's words echoed in my mind. Carefully, I reached behind the bookshelf and ran my fingers along the wood, their cool metal brushed against my fingertips. I heard a faint click. A small key was taped behind the shelf, hidden with black electrical tape. I gently removed it and walked over to a locked drawer in the corner of the room. That cabinet had always been special. My father once told me he stored important things inside it. Slowly I opened the drawer.